On November 17, 2025, central Vietnam stands in the middle of one of the most devastating sequences of storms, torrential rains, and floods in its recent history. What began as a prolonged period of heavy rainfall has transformed into a large-scale humanitarian crisis affecting millions of people from Quang Tri down to Da Nang and neighboring provinces. The consequences, already severe, continue to evolve as rivers rise, hills collapse, and rescue teams race against time. Over the past days, waves of torrential rainfall have battered the region continuously. Meteorologists report accumulated rainfalls ranging from 300 to 500 millimeters in many localities, with pockets reaching 700, 800, and even over 1,000 millimeters in mountainous zones such as Bach Ma. In several districts, the rain has been so intense that more than 200 millimeters fell in less than 3 hours, a staggering rate that overwhelmed drainage systems, burst riverbanks, and triggered flash floods with almost no warning. As the ground became saturated, the stability of hillsides deteriorated rapidly. Entire slopes softened under the relentless downpour, setting off landslides that tore through forests, cut through roads, and buried sections of rural villages. In Hue, early morning landslides sent walls of earth and debris crashing onto the famous Hai Van Pass and sections of National Highway 1. Commuters were stranded, and emergency crews had to form human chains to guide them across patches where the asphalt had collapsed into mud. Quang Tri province has become one of the epicenters of the landslide emergency. More than 50 landslide points have been recorded along key transportation routes alone, with additional smaller collapses occurring along village roads and mountain footpaths. In some areas, roads simply vanished under several meters of earth. In others, enormous boulders rolled downhill, destroying houses or blocking the only access routes to isolated communities. Residents described hearing deep rumbling noises at night, like distant thunder, only to find new fissures and collapsing slopes the next morning. The flooding is equally catastrophic. Rivers such as the Huang River in Hue and the Vuj Thur Bien system in Da Nang have risen to levels far above safety thresholds. Some gauge stations reported water levels that surpassed critical marks by more than half a meter, flooding entire neighborhoods that had already been inundated earlier in the season. In many streets of Hue, water levels reached between half a meter and 1 meter. People moved around on makeshift rafts, balancing supplies on their heads, while rescue boats maneuvered through what used to be major avenues. In Da Nang, rising waters forced mass evacuations. More than 4,800 households, roughly 15,800 people, had to abandon their homes, often under urgent instructions issued late at night. Loudspeakers mounted on vehicles rolled through neighborhoods announcing immediate evacuation orders, warning residents of dangerous water currents and approaching landslides. Rescue teams knocked on doors, calling for the elderly to be brought out first, then children, and then families with unstable houses near hills. Across the central region, at least 22,000 people, more than 7,200 households, have been evacuated so far. Some were taken to schools and community halls converted into emergency shelters. Others sought refuge with relatives on higher ground. Dozens of villages remain partially cut off, reachable only by boat or through dangerous trekking paths that skirt around broken roads. The death toll continues to rise. Current figures report 37 people killed and 5 more missing, with dozens injured. Many of the fatalities occurred when flash floods crashed into low-lying houses during the night, or when landslides struck workers on rural roads. In one tragic incident, a family attempting to evacuate on motorcycles was swept off a washed-out bridge. Soldiers and volunteers searched the downstream banks for hours, battling strong currents, debris, and thick mud. Infrastructure damage is staggering. Entire stretches of highways are unusable. Bridges have been weakened by the continuous force of floodwaters carrying uprooted trees, rocks, and the remains of agricultural equipment. Local authorities warn that even when the waters recede, it may take weeks or months to repair essential infrastructure. In remote mountainous districts, reconstruction will be even more challenging, as bulldozers and heavy equipment cannot yet reach the damaged areas. Agriculture, the backbone of many communities in central Vietnam, has suffered a massive blow. More than 7,000 hectares of rice fields lie submerged or destroyed. Vegetables and fruit orchards have been wiped out in many zones. Poultry farms, pig farms, and cattle shelters have been flooded, leading to tens of thousands of animal deaths. For rural families, this represents the loss of both food and livelihood. Many small farmers express deep concern about their future, wondering how they will rebuild once waters finally recede. Livestock carcasses floating in floodwaters are a major public health concern. Contamination is spreading through the stagnant water that now covers entire urban zones. Medical specialists in emergency shelters worrying about outbreaks of waterborne diseases, particularly as clean drinking water becomes scarce. Wells have been contaminated, water tanks damaged, and chlorine supplies are limited. Medical teams are performing non-stop, tending to injuries, infections, dehydration, and trauma. Electricity outages have left parts of Hue, Quang Tri, and rural Da Nang in darkness. Power lines are down, either torn apart by falling trees or undermined by landslides. Communication networks are unstable. Many villages have no mobile phone signal, making it difficult for them to call for help or receive evacuation notices. Rescue coordinators are forced to dispatch patrols on motorbikes or on foot to check on isolated settlements. Despite all this, life-saving efforts continue with extraordinary coordination and determination. Soldiers from various military units are deployed across the region, clearing debris, constructing temporary shelters, and delivering supplies. They use ropes to cross dangerous water currents, inflatable boats to reach stranded homes, and drones to monitor water levels and landslide risks. Volunteers from youth unions and local organizations join them, helping transport relief materials, rice, instant noodles, drinking water, medicine, blankets. In Da Nang, a dramatic rescue took place near the Bach Ma 3 hydropower reservoir. During the night, rising water levels trapped a group of residents who had attempted to salvage their belongings. Rescuers navigated the dangerous waters, at first using ropes and later using a canoe once the current allowed access. The rescue operation lasted until dawn, with teams working in rotating shifts. Emergency shelters paint a picture of both hardship and hope. Families sleep on mats in crowded classrooms. Children cling to their parents, many still frightened by the noise of collapsing hillsides or the sudden rush of floodwaters. Volunteers distribute warm meals, hot tea, and clothes. Teachers, whose schools now serve as shelters, help comfort displaced families and organize activities for children to maintain a sense of normalcy. Amid the devastation, cultural heritage sites are also suffering. In Hue, the ancient city, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is dealing with water-immersed streets, damaged traditional houses, and historic sites threatened by rising waters. In Hoi An, the famous old town is heavily flooded once again. Shops are closed, streets turned into murky canals, and locals move around by boat to protect what they can. Climate experts warn that these events, while severe, may become more frequent. They point to patterns of increasingly intense rainfall, prolonged storm seasons, and rapid shifts in atmospheric moisture, trends consistent with ongoing climate change in Southeast Asia. This raises difficult questions for the future. How can central Vietnam adapt its infrastructure to withstand such extreme events? How can early warning systems be improved? What long-term relocation plans may be necessary for communities living at the foot of unstable hills or along eroding riverbanks? The government has begun to address these issues. Ministers are coordinating to deploy more rescue forces, reinforce river embankments, monitor reservoirs, and distribute emergency supplies. Authorities are mapping new landslide-prone zones and evaluating the stability of mountain slopes. The construction ministry is assessing priority areas for reconstruction once the immediate crisis subsides. The agricultural sector is preparing emergency seeds, livestock support programs, and soil rehabilitation plans. But on the ground, what stands out most is the resilience and unity of the people. Neighbors help neighbors. Young volunteers carry the elderly on their backs through flooded streets. Fishermen use their own boats to rescue stranded families. People share rice, water, and blankets. In the shelters, children exchange stories, trying to uplift one another's spirits. Many families who lost everything still speak with hope that their homes will be rebuilt, that their land will recover, and that better days will come. And amid all this, the sound of rain persists, sometimes soft, sometimes heavy, always reminding everyone that the danger is not yet over. More rainfall is predicted in the coming days, with forecasts warning of renewed flooding, further landslides, and rising tides. rescue teams know they must prepare for more emergencies. Communities remain on high alert, listening to weather announcements and evacuation orders. Yet through the uncertainty, something larger emerges, a shared determination to push through this crisis. Central Vietnam has faced storms many times before, and each time, it has risen again. This disaster is one of the harshest in decades, but the courage of the people, the farmers, the fishermen, the city workers, the students, the soldiers, shines brighter than the storm. The people of Central Vietnam are fighting, surviving, and rebuilding, not just their homes, but their sense of safety and community. This is not merely a story of destruction, it is a story of unity, resilience, and unwavering hope in the face of overwhelming adversity.